it's Wes, and it's time to talk about a gimbal. This might look a little weird to you right now, but bear with me. This is the new Zhiyun Crane M3S. Not to be confused with the Crane 3, that is massive and expensive. This is the compact one. What's it for? Who's it for? Well, we'll find out soon enough. Follow along, and we'll start with the categories, as always, the build quality. It is lighter, and it is cheaper than its big brother here, the Weebill 3S. They both have S's added onto their name, and that S stands for B, which stands for Bluetooth. I don't make the rules. This is very plasticky, but that means it's very lightweight. That is an obvious conscious trade-off here. Have a nice grip in the front, no grip on the back, which is unfortunate. The Weebill has grips on both sides. Then on the back here, if we turn it on, you will see we have a touchscreen. Now, one nice thing about these newer gimbals, as opposed to the old Weebill S, if you turn it on and it's not weighted, if it's locked down, it still turns on. It just goes into suspension mode. And so we can still play with the menu and such, and as you can see, we have a touchscreen. The touchscreen is nice and sturdy. I suspect it's going to scratch eventually because it is made of plastic, but it looks nice, it's very bright, easily visible in sunlight. On the back here, we have some buttons. They feel a little loosey-goosey, but one thing I want to point out is that this record button has two steps. There is focus and fire, focus, fire, so that's great. So you're not just pressing record. If while you're recording, you want to do the half press to jog your focus, there you go. And on the side here, we have a connection for charging. The arms themselves are metal on the inside and then plastic on the outside. But the plastic feels really nice and high quality. I'm not anticipating any issues. It feels pretty sturdy, not as sturdy as the Weebill 3 though. This knob on the front feels fantastic, has great tactility. Button on the front, I'm not going to be playing any video games with it, but it also feels great. The joystick, it's a little too soft, like it moves too easily. So when you've got a camera mounted on this is heavy. All your other fingers are squeezing hard, and then you got to be really delicate with your thumb. I don't really like that. I want this to be harder to push. Power switch, yeah, boy does that feel cheap. They cut a lot of corners here, but obviously very intentionally to make this very compact and incredibly lightweight. So I can understand that. And talking about build quality, we might as well mention the quality of the bag that it comes with, which is strangely nice. We have a magnetic closure here, and a pocket in the front, and a pocket in the bottom. Opens up, we've got pouches for things, we have foam and straps. So with the optional combo kit, you get this very nice bag. You can put backpack straps on it. The handle, oh, this handle is beautiful. Zhiyun is completely out of their minds when it comes to making the bags for these things. The bag that came with the X100, which is the light that we're using to light this here, it's nice. It's very nice. But the foam on the inside it's just packing foam that's been cut very nicely. But the outside's nice, the handle's nice. I thought this bag was excessive. This bag is fashionable and beautiful and feels wonderful. I think it's probably waterproof too. I don't know what they're thinking, but they're thinking hard about some details that other people just do not care about. I'm not adding the bag to the build quality rating. You can take your own conclusions there, but overall the build quality is a 7.5 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it can't be unless the whole thing was made out of carbon fiber to be this light, which that would be very expensive. Next up is feature set. This has a lot of features packed into this tiny little space here. Number one feature that we have is this. It has an LED, and you can shift between 5500 down to 2700. It's pretty bright, and if you were in a dark situation, this could really come in clutch. I don't see myself using it very much, but a lot of people in the way they shoot, like I use a lot of off-camera lighting and like battery-powered LED mono lights. If you don't have all that rig, you don't have to put a light on your camera. It's built right into here. It doesn't set off your weight. That is super convenient. Now, do I want to be paying for that myself when I'm not someone who would be using it? I'm a little uncomfortable with that, but is what it is. Another great feature, of course, as I mentioned before, is this touchscreen. It works great, highly responsive. We're going to talk about that more later on because it's not all good. The biggest feature, of course, is that it is tiny and lightweight. You can also have this tripod foot for it, but that makes it twice as big. And so that's an issue that I had with it. But given the features, it also has a 1/4-20 mount on the side here. And so I mounted my Spider light holster on it. And that solved one of my biggest problems with gimbals, is that there is nowhere to put it down if you just need to use your hands or if you're hybrid shooting and you want to use your camera. So I highly do not recommend trying this. I showed it to a couple friends of mine, a videographer friend, and she said that looks stupid and terrifying. But it worked for me. I did this the entire day at a wedding, 9 hours, loosened back and forth a little bit, but it never came off. That was fantastic because this thing is so light. So a 1/4-20 on the side, you can mount a light, you can mount a screen, or you could mount a holster. 1/4-20 on the bottom. This boasts a 7.5-hour battery life. I don't think it would quite get that far, but it did get me most of the way through the wedding day before I had to charge it. But it does have USB power delivery charging. It can charge in just 2 hours. Or you can just take a battery bank and plug it in. Bada bing, bada boom, and we're charging. Simple as that. You have a battery bank in your pocket, plug it in if you're running low on battery. We have Bluetooth connectivity to connect to your camera instead of using a wire, so you can do completely wireless with this, which is fantastic. Only with newer cameras. This won't work with my A9, but it will work with my A7 IV that already has a built-in Bluetooth receiver specifically for remote controls. And then on the top here we have something very important, a quick release plate. And that is something that the new Weebill 3S does not have. It sacrificed that in favor of a 90-degree switch. I have mixed feelings about that. Now, the front knob here, you can remap it. I have mine set to roll because I did have an issue with this that it kind of lost its horizon from time to time. Thankfully, you can easily either just double-click the front button to reset, or you can manually adjust the roll yourself. That's nice. What are we missing, though? What major features are we missing? This doesn't have the 90-degree flip like the Weebill has. Not important to some people, super important to others, because vertical video is unfortunately where a lot of the market is moving. So to do portrait mode, it actually just points it straight forward. This is hard to hold with a bigger camera. Now with a phone, that's no big deal. But yeah, this is not ideal. And it kind of bumps the top and bottom there. But I mean, it kind of works. Just, you gotta have strong arms. Then we've got Viltrox mode. Ooh boy. Let's just go back to pan follow. Oh no, she's stuck. It's backwards. We have a bit of an issue with clearance on this gimbal. This is tight. It's trying to be as small as possible. Not always fantastic. Big thing that this is missing, however, is the ability to fold flat. When I take this down, once I have it set up for a camera, and even when I have it set up for a phone, because one of the bigger kits comes with a phone mount, it doesn't go all the way down. They're aware of this, because when you go to lock, it locks it in this not quite all the way down position. But this is inconvenient. It doesn't go completely flat. If it did, it would fit in your pocket marvelously. Since it does not fit in your pocket marvelously. It'll never really be as small and compact as when it ships to you in the box, stock and new. Now, built into it, you have lots of different modes in here. Vortex mode and phone go mode and all that stuff. Scroll down, portrait mode. Uh-oh. Problem with this is, to fit the Sony cameras, you have to take off the eyepiece, or it can't rotate all the way that it's supposed to. So anyway, it has a ton of features, but the usability is problematic. That's what we're going to get to next. So feature set is 9 out of 10. Let's talk about usability. Number 1, you go into the app, it requires registration of the gimbal. You got to have a login, a user account, blah, blah, blah. I hate that. I want to just be able to start this up and then maybe sign in if I have a reason to. I don't like to be forced to do that. You shouldn't have to be forced into that. You do have an easy-to-use touchscreen, which is fantastic. It makes a ton of stuff easier. The joystick, as I said, could be and should be stiffer to make it easier to use. It is incredibly light and compact, and honestly, that is the biggest thing when it comes to usability. This thing becomes much more versatile because it is so light and compact. Yet you can do charging while you're operating, USB power delivery. What are our negatives? Well, number one, if I'm using this and my thumb is here, as has happened to me a bunch of times, my thumb has touched the info, and then the next button is restore defaults. I have almost defaulted this while using it at a wedding many times. Please don't do that. You can press the power button once, which locks the screen, and you kind of have to do that when you're using it, which sucks, because it's nice to have the screen that do things for you, but yeah, lock this thing down. Touchscreen, too touchy. We have very low clearance, very low weight capacity, and honestly, this camera with this lens doesn't look huge. It's too much weight for this gimbal. And getting it balanced is also a bit of a pain. If we look at the knob on the bottom here, instead of a slide lock, there's a knob. But when you tighten it, it ever so slightly shifts the plate that it's attached to. And because the weight capacity is so low on this, it can be so finicky when you're balancing it. Just tightening the knob can push it out of alignment, which is, it's such a pain. Also, another gripe, the quick release plate on this for the camera, it doesn't have thumb screws. This other plate here, just to show you what I'm talking about, this plate has a thumb screw. You can tighten it with your hands. This one does not. You need to have a quarter or maybe a screwdriver. I don't carry cash in my pockets anymore. A lot of people don't. I was at an event not that long ago. I needed to tighten a plate. I asked if anyone had any change. Not a single person had change. You gotta start putting thumb screws on these things. It's ridiculous. And one of the great features of this that you can connect through the app and perform firmware updates is also a negative because those firmware updates take forever. The firmware update I put on this took a half an hour, and you cannot leave the Zhiyun app. If you so much as switch over to answer an instant message, update failed. Thankfully, it didn't brick my device, so that's nice, I guess. But I don't know why these updates take so long. Perhaps it's just transferring it over Bluetooth instead of establishing a Wi-Fi handshake. I don't know. And also, if you go into the app, one of the best features of this is the sync motion mode, because you can just take your phone and turn it on, and you can move it with your phone. Now this might seem gimmicky, but when you're controlling it with the joystick, or when you're controlling it even with the controls inside the phone, it can be a little herky-jerky. But with the sync motion mode, this is the smoothest way to move the gimbal. It is so smooth. If you just move it ever so slightly, oh, it's nice. Now I don't know if it's just an iPhone thing, but if you want to get a smooth motion, the sync motion mode is just phenomenal. It's simple and easy to use. The touchscreen's great, but it has a lot of drawbacks. I'm going to give that a 7 out of 10. Before we continue, I want to tell you about a giveaway I'm having, because you know what goes great with a gimbal? A lightweight wireless lav system. And I'm going to give away a Godox MoveLink 2 M2. Just follow the link down below. All you really need to do is like and subscribe, and I'd like you to like and subscribe anyway. Most important part to a lot of people, which makes sense, stabilization. Roll the footage. I was using an A7 IV with a 35G master on that, and I feel like that's like the heaviest that this thing can use. Anything heavier than that gets a little herky-jerky, a little unreliable, and it still wasn't quite perfect with that. It still wants something lighter. So honestly, this is mostly designed for something more like a Sony ZV-1 or ZV-1 Mark II that is very light, then it can really move it around fast. They kind of want some people to buy this just for a mobile phone, but there are lighter, cheaper things for that. And this guy here is just as fast and easy for a mobile phone. You just can't mount a camera on it. Stabilization all depends on how heavy your device is, and your mileage will vary, and especially because this will continue to receive firmware updates for a good long time to come that will improve things a bit. Who knows, by the time this actually hits the market, it might already be greatly improved, hopefully. But for now, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10, if you can get something within the weight rating of this. Speaking of weight rating, this is estimated to be around 2.4 pound capacity. That is very, very light. And it's $300. Compare that to this, the Weebill 3S. This is $320 with nearly a 10-pound weight rating, depending on who you ask, maybe 6. Still, a lot more weight for just a little more money. Now, if you want the whole kit with the phone holder and this rather luxurious bag, that's $360. Now, let's look at the competition. There's the original Crane M3, which doesn't have the Bluetooth. That's $280, just a little less. Doesn't have the quick release plate either, I don't think. Now you could, if you're just using it for mobile videography, the Hohem iSteady M6 here, you can slap a light on top of it, like this, boom, you have the light. It also does intelligent tracking, which is super handy. And this is $220 as a base model or $275 with face tracking or object tracking. Still less and lighter and folds flatter. And it gets like 18 hours of battery life, which is crazy compared to this, which is heavier and more expensive. Now, a top seller in this category would be the DJI RS3 Mini for $380. That is a 4.5 pound weight rating. A lot more than this, but it is more money. So I've got to say, this thing here, when it is calibrated, all set up to match your camera, it mostly folds flat. Ultimately, in the bag, it's only a little bit smaller than the Weebill 3S. I've got to say, just buy the Weebill 3S. In this small weight category, it doesn't fit anywhere. Well, it's small, so it fits in a lot of places, but market-wise, I do not get it. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for value. It's an okay value, but if you're going to be doing mobile phone videography, just get a phone gimbal. They're lighter, battery lasts longer, more compact. If you're going to be attaching a camera to it, get the Weebill 3S. This is a phenomenal gimbal. Watch my video on it there. It only costs a tiny bit more, and it is so much more powerful and reliable and sturdy, and it's just not that much bigger. Just get the Weebill. I mean, I'll leave links down in the description for both of them. Let me know what your thoughts are. Am I way off base here? Does this have a distinct niche in the market? I mean, if you have a Sony ZV-1 or ZV-1 Mark II, this is the perfect gimbal for you. But otherwise, get the Weebill. And, till next time, go take some photos.